My name is Caroline, and I'm currently in my third year of my medical school. And I started medical school actually in 2021. So I'll be graduating in less than 1 year in June of next year.
So you always want to go to medical school, right?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to become a doctor since I was 4 years old. So it's been a long dream of mine, but the journey hasn't been easy for me. It's definitely very competitive and very hard to get in, especially in North America. Actually, Canada is the most difficult place to get in medical school just because we only have 17 medical schools in all of Canada.
Wow.
And 14 of them are English speaking, so really only 14. And one of them is only for people that live in the northern Canada, northern Ontario, so they don't take people that live in the cities. So really 13 schools in all of Canada, so quite difficult to get in. And also, I did find other interests along the way, along my path to medical school. So I would say that the dream has always been there, but there are moments where I maybe didn't want to follow that path anymore. But now that I'm back in this path, I couldn't be any happier. So the simplest path to medical school is you do have to complete an undergraduate degree. It can be 3 years, doesn't have to be four, but usually people do complete 4 years because it's so competitive to get into medical school, and that is the minimum. So you do need to finish university first, and then you can apply to medical school. But most people that I'm in medical school with do have masters or even PhD degrees because it's just hard to get in. So having these degrees help you a little bit easier to get in.
The cat.
Oh, yes. So there is the MCAT for some schools. Not every school needs the MCAT. I don't know what it stands for, but it is the entrance exam to apply to medical school. Most medical schools do require it, but some other schools don't. So McMaster doesn't require you to complete the MCAT. I don't think Ottawa University does. I can't remember this anymore, but it's most schools though. They do require MCAT completion. So it's good to do the MCAT just so you have more schools to apply to, since there are only 14 or 13 schools really to choose from. And there are a lot of other criteria. So obviously your grade is very important. You need to have a high GPA, and they only look at your university grades. They don't look at high school. They don't look at your master's grades. They only really look at university grades. So the moment that you go to university, you have to make sure you get good grades, even in first year university. But that's the toughest thing. There's no room for you to not do well. I mean, there is some room, but you just cannot do poorly in university and still get in medical school. So normally you will need at least a GPA of 3.8 if it's out of 4. And most people that are in medical school do have a GPA of 3.86, 3.9 something. Some people have 4.0 GPA. On top of that, you also need to have a good score on the MCAT. So the MCAT has different sections, and normally you need to score well in all sections. Some schools require you to score particularly well in the verbal section, which is verbal communication, because communication skills they're very important being a physician. So the MCAT, the grades in undergrads, it's the most important to get an interview. But there are also a lot of other extracurricular activities that are very important. So, for example, research, scientific research. So, working in a laboratory for a professor and then getting your work published will earn you a lot of points to get an interview in medical school. Also, other extracurricular activities, including leadership opportunities, are most important. So, for example, extracurricular activities that involve leadership are very important for medical school application, because as a physician, you are the leader of the healthcare team.
Okay.
So you lead nurses, you lead the other healthcare providers. So you make the ultimate decision. So that's why they really care about the leadership roles that you've taken upon when you're in high school, university, and just in life in general. So one of the leadership opportunities I did was I actually started a piano school, and I taught piano myself. I also hired other people to teach piano for me, and I also coached softball. I started multiple clubs in undergrad. So those are things where you can show medical school that you have the qualities are required to become a good physician.
Okay. So basically, university mark, and then your leadership skills, and you have to pass that the medical exam. Then you can get into the interview.
Yes. So, and then the research projects are very important. So, because as a physician, it's not just about learning and studying and examining patients. It's also about being able to advance healthcare and sciences. So, we need to know how to do research. We need to know how to, come up with new ideas on how to treat diseases. Because if we don't do this, no one else is going to be able to do it. There are scientists who do research specifically, but they are not going to be in the field actually applying those scientific knowledge to patients. So as physicians, research is also a critical part. It's hard to actually publish papers as a undergraduate degree student because a lot of professors won't allow you to work in their lab or even allow you to publish. But if you do get that opportunity to, or you can do it by doing a master's or PhD, then your application has a higher chance of getting accepted and offered an interview.
So is there any student, even they get an interview, they failed? So what's the pass rate for them?
Yeah, so normally, at least in Ontario, because I only applied to Ontario, I didn't apply to the other provinces. In Ontario, usually around 5,000 to 6,000 applicants apply to medical school. They usually interview approximately 300 to 500 students, and depending on the size of each school's class, they accept a certain amount of students. We interview 500 students, and we take 171 students into the medical school program in my school. So I guess that's maybe 1/3 of chance to get in. So actually, getting offered an interview is one of the hardest part of getting to medical school because I guess from 5,000 applicants to only 500 being interviewed, that's only 10% chance of getting an interview.
Yeah. So who's interview you, like the panel or individual professor?
Yeah, so for my I interviewed at 3 schools: University of Toronto, Western, as well as Queen's, and each school is very different. But normally, it's a panel of interviewers that consists of physicians, so those are already doctors in the community, senior medical students. So those people can tell who they would like to be part of their program, and sometimes a community member. So they cannot be a physician, they cannot be a medical student, they can do any other jobs. For example, they can be a psychologist, they can be an engineer, because these are the people that we are going to feature. So usually it's a panel of different people with different roles, but always involves a physician at least and a medical student. So I think one of the most important attributes that will help you be a successful candidate to apply to medical school is perseverance, because the Canadian government at least invests a lot of money into each student to complete their medical training. So it looks really bad on the school if you fail or you drop out in the middle of completing your training, and we lose a doctor, and we don't have a lot of doctors in Canada. So one of the most important things for the schools when they do interviews is make sure that you are somebody that will never give up, that is committed to to learn and lifelong learning really, and committed to finishing this degree however hard it is. And the whole 4 years of medical school is extremely difficult. Residency is also extremely hard, and lots of times people want to quit. And they choose people that even if you want to quit, they would not quit. So you have to show that you've done things in your life that's hard and how you persevere through the hardship. So they always ask you, tell me, a weakness, or tell me something that was really hard for you that you had to overcome, or something like that. They always ask that kind of question. So I have always wanted to be a doctor since I was 4 years old. I remember I was quite sick, and my mom called my aunt and asked her, how to make me feel better. And over the phone, my aunt was actually able to make me feel so much better. And in that moment, I thought I wanted to be that person that helped somebody to feel better. And then I guess there were a lot of cultural influences, even from the Western world, where being a physician in Canada is one of the most prestigious career choices that one can take upon. And also in the Chinese culture, where a lot of parents want their children to be successful, and that usually includes either becoming a lawyer or a physician. So that definitely had an influence in my decision to continuing my passion for medicine. When I was in undergrad, I really wanted to focus on becoming a doctor, and then I did my master's so that I can go to medical school and be a better candidate for medical school. Actually, after I graduated from my master's degree in neurosciences at McGill, I started working as a psychological associate, and I didn't expect this, but I fell in love with my work. I realized that I was able to help people, not just becoming a physician. There are a lot of different ways to help people. And also, as a psychological associate, surprisingly, the pay is really good. I was making this same or even more than a physician could make. So at that moment, I thought, why would I go to medical school, spend all this time and money, but I don't end up making more money?
Yes, true.
And so I did think about this quite a bit, and is it worth it? But after working for some time, I realized that I have this thirst for knowledge. It sounds really weird, but I felt like there's so much to learn, and I'm not in an environment where I get to really learn. And now I think about it, I think it's stupid, because I am so tired of learning. I'm learning every single day. My head hurts all the time. But at that moment when I was working, I just felt that I didn't give my full potential. I felt like I want to learn more, and I wasn't in an environment to do that. So I knew that I wanted to go back to school for something, and I thought maybe I can do a PhD in clinical psychology and become a clinical psychologist. And I thought about that path for a little bit. I even researched into it, but then I realized I don't have that much passion for it. At the end of the day, my childhood dream of becoming a physician, my passion for medicine, it's so overwhelming that there's no other path for me but to apply to medical school. So that's when I decided that I will have to quit the job that I actually really love, or I didn't actually quit fully, but actually pursue, apply to medical school and go to medical school.
Yeah, I know, because the consulting also make lots of money, and you had that motivation to come back to medical school. It's really show your passion for the medical career, right?